Yo, it's my first video. I'm not a rapper. Today, I will be talking about Marvel Rivals. You might have heard of it. Marvel Rivals is the new hot girl in town and is taking everyone by storm. Everyone and their mama is playing it right now, and it's really not surprising. With characters ranging from Iron Man to frickin' Jeff the Land Shark. I'd bet my 401k that 90% of people didn't know of Jeff's existence until they played this game. The sky is the limit when you're choosing to add heroes, or villains, I'm not judging, to play from the vast catalog of characters Marvel has accumulated over the years. So I thought it would be fun to pitch characters that I would love to see playable in this game, additionally giving each character their own kit or gimmick. Now before we get into it, I'd like to preface that with the general nature of a lot of these characters, literally all of them would fit into the duelist role. But my imagination isn't smaller than a Pym particle, so I will be doing my best and cutting corners where I can to even out the roster. We need more vanguards and strategists, so I will be flexible with my ideas to compensate for that. Now, let's get into it. Now, a lot of you don't know me personally, so you obtain the privilege of not experiencing my total obsession with Spider-Man. This is my guy. Like, no one comes before him. So the fact that we have both him and arguably his greatest villain in the game already makes me a very happy boy. But if I'm being honest, I want more. It might be derivative, like why am I asking for more Spider-Man before I pitch missing iconic characters like Deadpool and Daredevil? But trust me, I'll get to those in time. These pitches are my personal picks. I'll get to the real pitches after this, I promise, but something I love about this game is the potential to have an all Spider-Man team. So I will be adding different characters from the Spider-Verse, and enough so that we can have a fully balanced team with them. 2 vanguards, 2 duelists, and 2 strategists. But all spiders. Let's get it. Now, we already have 1 vanguard and 1 duelist in Penny and Peter, so we can just forget about them for now. My pitch for our second Spider-Person vanguard is none other than Miguel Ojeda, or Spider-Man 2099 for you simpletons. This has nothing to do with the fact that Across the Spider-Verse turned him into a freaking bodybuilder. Oh, come on, who am I kidding? Of course it does. Look at him. Oh, crap, look at him. This man is a freaking tank. Mix that with the fact that the rival devs would absolutely eat at a redesign for him. And I'm sorry, I want him in the game yesterday. They can also give him his Mark II suit, the white one, as an alternate. Instead of shooting webs to lead into combos, it would be cool if he used his cool mechanical webbing like from the movie as a primary fire. In this scene, he's shown using it like a dark side laser almost, so it would be cool if he used it offensively. His fire rate would be a little slow, but he can also whip out his talons. We have a lot of bruiser tanks already, and with the Thing coming as well, the idea isn't original. But Miguel's talons are basically a staple of the character, so we have to have them. He can have a combo with them, and they can probably make the final hit of the combo with that cool blade that comes out of his arm, and hitting that does the most damage. He would have a web swing, exactly like Venom, and I think he should have a lunge. Miguel will leap forward, and when he latches onto an enemy, his mask pulls back, and he sticks his fangs into their neck. I know it's a little dark, but that's what he does. Don't get mad at me. This will lower the enemy's health while replenishing Miguel, giving him more survivability. To top it off, I guess they can give him a barrier or something. Miguel is supposed to be a genius, I guess, so they can give him another tank ability that has him using a gadget he invented to increase his survivability. Maybe they can give him an ability where he injects himself with something, like from the movie that gives him a buff. To round it off, I think it'd be cool to integrate the Spider-Verse into his ultimate, since he's always directly tied to it somehow. The ability can be called Lila, do the thing.
Lila, do the thing.
Huh?
And it can open a spider portal in front of him, and a bunch of spider people from the Spider Society or something can rush through doing damage and stunning enemies. I don't know, that might not be that original, but they can really do whatever for his ultimate, and it'd be fine. Moving on, we have the next duelist, and we all saw it coming probably. Come on, it's the GOAT. It's the bane of Miguel's existence with all the swagger of a black teenager. It's Gwen Stacy. It's Miles. I was gonna try to fake out, but it's Miles. Of course it's Miles. I mean, it's inevitable that they add Miles to this game. Mofo isn't everything. A lot of people might think that Miles should just be a skin for Peter, and I'd have to passionately disagree. Miles is dope because he shares a lot of similarities to Peter, but he also differentiates from him as well. Plus, if they add Miles, but don't put this suit in the game, I don't want it. Now, I know this is where I should be detailing how different Miles should be from Peter, but I think the foundation of both kits should be roughly the same. Web swing, the same. Web shooting, the same. Spider sense, the same. The only thing I would change would be adding Miles' extra abilities. Instead of his webs being like normal, they can be electric webs. I'm pretty sure he did it in the comics, please correct me if I'm wrong. Even if he hasn't done that before, it would be an interesting change to make him different from Peter. These electric webs can add a different effect onto enemies so that whoever he attaches them to is damaged after he uses another ability. It'd be like a detonated lightning shock. Also, give him a classic Kamehameha in place of Peter's pull ability that he can charge, and when it lands, it can bounce onto other enemies he webbed. I think it would also be really cool if they gave him the dive attack Venom has, but it does electric splash damage and attaches the Venom effect. Also, replacing the uppercut, he would instead kick off an enemy and go invisible. This will have him behave very similar to Peter, but implement all of Miles' unique abilities too. I feel like he should be a glass cannon, does more damage than Peter but is a little squishier. His ultimate would be hard since Insomniac Games already made one for us in the PlayStation games. Miles can just nuke the enemies kind of like Wanda, but I'm not sure how to change it to keep it fresh. But still, I'm sure NetEase could figure it out. I did also have an idea for a team up with Peter. It'd be called It Takes Two, and it would involve when Peter uses his ult, if Miles has his, instead of the nuke, he can join in with Peter. This would increase the radius and how long the ultimate lasts. If not, maybe if there isn't a Venom, Miles can give Peter an electric attack like the one he gets from Venom. There are probably a lot more they could do. I mean, I didn't even mention this man's electric sword, so I'm sure Miles would have a nice, refreshing moveset. Now that we got Peter, Miles, and Miguel, it's only fitting that my next choice would be Spider-Gwen. I'd honestly choose Gwen over Miguel, but these are my ideas, so we get in both. There are only 2 strategists left to fill, so Gwen is going to have to be a strategist. Similar to everyone else, Gwen will share moves and abilities from the other spider people, but her kit will be adjusted to fit a support role. Also, Gwenom alternate, enough said. Gwen is literally the same as Miles and Peter when it comes down to all the base characteristics, strength, speed, spider sense, but there is a version of Gwen that could be used that can justify a more strategist playstyle. Like I said before, fact check me if I'm wrong please, but I think Gwen loses her powers at some point in the comics. After this, she bonds with a symbiote that basically gives her all her powers back and a super neat new ability. Apparently she can expel gummy-like spiders. Don't know how I feel about that, but we keep it pushing. So for her secondary fire, she will toss a bunch of gummy spiders forward, and that'll be her healing. However they decide to make it function, they stick on allies, pass through, it doesn't really matter. Whatever balances her out and makes her feel comfortable to play. Her primary would be a normal web shot, but she wouldn't have the ability that pulls the enemy. Gwen should be able to swing, but I feel like having so many characters with swinging abilities could break the game, so I'm going to put a little spin on hers. She gets one swing, but after the swing is activated, she enters into one of her new passives. She gains a speed boost and an extra jump for a specific amount of time after landing on the ground. Replace the uppercut with a kick of some kind, and her melee should be a combo of ballerina moves. Her ultimate I think should integrate her drums. She pulls them out and starts playing them. This will buff her teammates' damage and heal them over time. Some of these ideas can obviously be tweaked to fit a better strategist playstyle, but I wanted to include her ballerina traits and personality in her kit. I think the strongest parts of this kit would be the healing and the ultimate. I think those are good ideas for Gwen, but the others I wouldn't mind if they did something else. Also, as I was designing her, it only occurred to me during the conception that making a spider healer isn't that easy, except for our new strategist. This was the idea that sparked the rest. The one spider person that made the most sense to be a strategist. Spider-Ham. With the limitless potential behind his hammer space abilities and overall Looney Tunes aesthetic, he'd also be such an interesting addition to the game. Now one might be saying, come on, you're gonna add this goofy mofo to the game? And I will refute that argument with Jeff the Landshark. If we can have this cute, nonsensical little creature in Rivals, I don't think Peter Porker is that far-fetched. As for an alternate, I really don't know what they could do. Maybe give him a black suit version that looks like Venom, or they can do something original. For a moveset, I really do think the possibilities are endless. His melee would just be him smacking and swinging his cartoon hammer and making onomatopoeias with each hit. I think it would be funny if his healing was just him tossing pies, sandwiches, and other delicious looking food to heal. Might be controversial, but I'm considering making Spider-Ham the only one that doesn't swing. I feel like if every one of these spiders can swing, that would make for a pretty oppressive meta.
Oh, fuck.
Porker probably should have a swing, but I'd vote against it just for balancing and to also make all the spider people feel different. Like none of them have the same swings or even have a swing. He'd need to have an anvil related attack similar to this scene from Spider-Verse. Just an extra damage dealing ability if any duelists try to jump him. My idea for his ultimate isn't very original, but I think it would be fine. Photography isn't a part of Peter Parker's kit, like, at all. I mean, that's kind of a lie because it shows up for like 2 seconds in one of his MVP animations, but I mean a part of his moveset. So I think it would be cool if Spider-Ham took out a camera with one of those big old-fashioned flashes and took a picture. There would be a radius indicated in front of him, and whoever is caught within it is blinded and slowed for a short time. I don't know. I just think it'd be nice, especially since it would be another strategist ult that doesn't just heal, but more. Basically, think of all the shenanigans from a Looney Tunes episode and give it all to him for a moveset, and you're basically done. That was my Spider-Verse concept. I imagine they can center a season around this and release these characters gradually. Or they can make everyone I suggested a duelist and call it a day. Can't have too many duelists, am I right? But leaning away from Spider-Man stuff, it's time to get into some other ideas, starting with the Man Without Fear. Unfortunately, Daredevil has to be a duelist. This man is a man-beater. Truly a savage when it comes to throwing hands, and I've seen a lot of memes on Twitter and stuff about how the gameplay for Daredevil will just be a black screen. And I'm sorry, Daredevil can probably see more than you can top frag with Hela or Hawkeye, so there's that. There's nothing really about Daredevil that I can work around to make him a tank or heal, so we're just gonna go with another duelist and act like we don't notice. Also, just give him one of his many recolors and we should be fine. Personally, I would prefer this design because I think it's tough as hell. My bad. Personally, I would prefer this design because I think it's tough as hell, but I'm down for whatever. One of the first abilities I think of when I think of Daredevil in a game like this is wall hacks. This man has otherworldly senses that lets him know if a bad guy is walking into his apartment building. He needs to either have a passive or an ability that allows him to see enemies and maybe even health packs or ultimates like rockets through walls. There should be a cap on the radius of this ability to balance it out as much as possible. Daredevil also needs to have a couple jumps, and he should be able to run, similar to how Luna's base walk can transition into her skating that makes her go faster. His main weapon is his billy club. This also houses a grappling hook, so give him Moon Knight's grapple that can also double as Spider-Man's grab ability. Controversial maybe, but he should have a passive that makes his footsteps inaudible, unless he's like right on your ass. Like you need to be really close to him to hear him coming, and by that time it's too late. I think he will struggle when it comes to range, but he can get in and get out, and he'll probably always know where you are, so I think it will balance itself out. I think for an ultimate, he should either have a blackout ability, where he basically makes everyone else blind, or share his radar with his teammates. Daredevil has the potential to be freaking broken, but he would no doubt be a fun character to use. For the next character, we gotta get Deadpool in this game, ASAP. I don't think I need to explain why. It's kind of crazy we just got a movie with him and Wolverine, and we're still not able to play as them in this game yet. He wouldn't really fit any other role than a duelist, so we're just gonna skip the deliberation since it's where he belongs. For an alternate skin, X-Force seems like the most logical, or maybe we hit him with some X-Men Origins Wolverine, huh? No, definitely not. Maybe a pirate skin or something original, I don't know. Let's just get into the moveset. His primary fire is pretty obvious. His katanas and dual pistols, and he can interchange between them. His first ability has to be him slashing all the bullets and attacks hitting him, referencing that one scene from Origins. Think of Genji's deflect, but he doesn't shoot it back out. He can just regularly deny damage if he needs to escape, but it won't work from the back or sides. Giving him another ability not tied to the swords, I'm thinking maybe something involving a fourth wall break. Waste should be breaking the fourth wall all throughout his gameplay, but it would be cool if there was a move for it. Maybe he could have an attack that when it lands, an animation of a little cartoon Deadpool shows up on your screen and crosses out your abilities so you can't use any of them for a little bit. I know that might be controversial because no one ever liked it when Sombra from Overwatch could just make you stop playing the game, but I think it would be funny, so who cares about balance? They can also give him a teleport to add to his mobility, but I feel like that might make him too much like Sombra at that point. Maybe for his ultimate, he can use Cable's time travel watch and reverse time, but that sounds a little too busted, so Unicorn. Don't ask, just accept. Moving on, hear me out. Everyone can be a duelist, but I think it would be cool to see Ghost Rider as a Vanguard. Mostly because we need them, but it would be easy to tweak his design and moves to fit the role. I'm thinking of a bigger build with broad shoulders and the iconic skull face. Whether they do Johnny Blaze or Robbie Reyes, I don't really care, but I'm leaning more towards Johnny because I would love to see the motorcycle in the game. They can also add Robbie as an alternate and that really cool cowboy looking one, and I'll share my idea for those two in a minute. But first, let me plead my case for Tank Rider. When I think of Ghost Rider, I think of a literal tank. Him and Moon Knight are actually busted in the fact that these guys can take a whole lot of damage and dish it back out. But Moon Knight fell into the damage role, so let's give Ghost Rider a tank playstyle that's still true to his character. First of all, the man needs his chains. He can have like medium range and just lash them at the enemies. It would be cool if he had a grab as well, but I feel like a lot of characters have that already in this video, so I can go without it. I wouldn't be opposed to giving him a bind ability since he ties his enemies up with his chains all the time. He should have a protection ability of some kind to keep himself or his teammates alive. It'd be cool if he uses his Eldritch powers to summon a wall of demons or fire. Literally anything to make him more tanky. It would be cool if he had a passive like Adam Warlock's where if he dies, he can come back after making a deal with Mephisto for a second chance at the fight. Another ability should be his summon vehicle. So depending on which skin you use, the vehicle could end up changing. Like if he has the cowboy skin, instead of his normal motorcycle, he can call the cool fire horse. The motorcycle wouldn't have a cooldown, but it would have a meter that needs to recharge after using it for too long. Johnny should be able to still swing his chains while driving and leave fire on the ground that doesn't linger long, but still does damage. Time for his ultimate, and many fans of Ghost Rider know where I'm going with this. The Penance Stare. Now hear me out. This might be my greatest idea or the worst, but I think the stare should have something to do with the performance of the character he uses it on. For those of you who don't know what the Penance Stare is, he basically stares into someone's eyes and makes them relive all the pain they have caused others. This typically causes people to enter painful comas, but in this game, the effectiveness of the ultimate will depend on how much pain the recipient has caused during the match. So let's say an Iron Fist is popping off and has 15 kills and 10k damage. If Ghost Rider uses his ultimate on Iron Fist, he will immediately kill him due to his high performance. To me, it sounds good on paper, but it requires a lot of game sense and is truly just a tool in the game to punish the MVP. So like I said, logically, it's kind of the greatest idea I've come up with, but in practice, it might not be that good. But who knows? Maybe I'm cooking. Black Panther was a one-of-a-kind movie that introduced general audiences to a whole new fan favorite. Eric Killmonger swept the world by storm with his justifiable motivation and overall screen presence. The man was intimidating, and people still consider him the MCU's best villain. So let's add him. He naturally should be a tank. It was between him and M'Baku for the next Black Panther character, but I feel like Killmonger is more iconic, and M'Baku can always be added later. I'm thinking of a more comic-accurate design, and then adding his iconic MCU look as an alternate. I don't just want to add Killmonger and make him a Vanguard Black Panther. I want to make a moveset that does something entirely new. Killmonger should be aggressive, running into the team and taking them down. He should have a trample ability that does damage as he swings his spear around his body, similar to Aresa's javelin spin. His primary weapon should be a railgun of some kind, doing more damage and becoming more accurate the closer you are to an enemy. Eric could use a move called Stolen Vibranium, in which he activates a device on his belt, wrist, wherever they want to put it, and it creates a bubble around him that also moves with him. The bubble shouldn't have too much health so that it isn't so broken. Something they could do is that as the bubble's health diminishes, it gets smaller, so it doesn't cover his teammates. This could add a level of complexity, because you'd never want your bubble to be too small that you aren't protecting your teammates. I'm a big fan of when movesets include situational abilities that require some form of game sense. For his last ability, I think he should have a poison dart or something. This could slow an enemy, but only slightly, and of course do a decent chunk of damage. If an ally heals you with this dart attached, maybe it could interrupt it and remove the dart. That might make the ability a little useless, especially since triple support is kind of the meta right now, but I also don't want to sauce out Killmonger's kit with too much oppression. I did struggle to think of an ultimate for him that fit him, but then I remembered the beloved film in which he gathered the support of some Wakandans. So maybe he could have adopted some tactics from them and take out a big horn and summon some rhinos. I know this is more of a Wakabi thing from the movie, but I don't know what else you could give him for an ultimate. Hey, I've already made him like an Orisa, Mauga, and Junker Queen amalgamation, so give him one of their ultimates, or maybe all of them. That would really be balanced. On to our next strategist. If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you know what a good dog she is. So much so that I think she would be a great strategist for this game. Which is kind of funny since that would make 4 of the Guardians strategists. Hey, after they added Jeff and maybe Spider-Ham, us Marvel creature lovers are thriving, and it would only be better if we added Cosmo. They can also do what they did with other Guardians and give her the suit from Volume 3 for an alternate. Cosmo is a telekinetic dog. I picture her having a lot of CC and maybe a high damage output with low effort healing. I don't remember if there are any healers that have AoE, so I think Cosmo should be the first if there isn't. She can just have a ring around her so that whenever you're near her, she's healing you. I do think she should have a targeted heal. You know what would make this targeted heal even better? They can make it so that it's just a bark. Cosmo barks at you and the heal just comes from the dopamine gained from the affection of a dog. Or it can come from her psionic capabilities. Geez, sorry for trying to make the dog hero cute and fun. The AoE heals should be slower though to balance these out. Her attack should be her telekinetically throwing stones or debris at enemies. It would be so funny to see this golden retriever chucking boulders at tanks. The attack speed should be much slower to keep this from making her oppressive. Cosmo is also known to make shields as well, so maybe they can implement that. I can't think how they could differentiate it from Sue Storm, but maybe the shield could act like Sigma's where she decides where she places it. Not sure if that'll be balanced or if she should just have a stun, but I'm sure the devs would add something fitting. It would be pretty neat if her ultimate was her lifting people in the air with her mind. She would gain a little health buff to make the move a little sustainable, but this move would function as a setup for combos with your allies. Brownie points if they make it like Sigma, and she just slams everyone to the ground like a boss. This is basically Sigma, but dog. I know. Of all the characters to make a strategist, Falcon doesn't seem like that type, right? Well, similarly to how I would like the roster to be balanced out with the amount of heroes in each role, I also believe each role deserves a bit of diversity when it comes to the heroes that represent them. I personally believe it would be unique and interesting to have a character like Falcon be a strategist where he is constantly in the air and pokes at the enemies while also supporting his allies. I want a more traditional Falcon though. The MCU design is still, in my opinion, awesome as hell and influenced Falcon's design in pretty much everything. But I want the classic red and white suit and wings from the comics, and it would be dope if they also gave him a Captain America alternate so we can potentially have two captains on a team. But in terms of his kit, let me tell you what I'm cooking. I want this man to fly, and I mean fly. Iron Man does, but that's on a burnable meter. I want Falcon to always be in the air and always able to zoom around, no cooldowns or anything. It might sound broken to let this man have limitless mobility like that, but I hope to make his wings very large and part of his hitbox. So if you do focus him, it would be much easier to hit him. They could give him a passive that works similar to Mr. Fantastic's elasticity, where he charges a meter that when full gives him maximum speed and healing. Speaking of his healing, this is where his primary fire comes in. I think it would be cool if Falcon chucks feathers from his wings. If they hit an ally, it will heal them. If they hit an enemy, it will damage them. If they miss and land on the ground or walls, they will explode after a while. Of course, the explosion hitting an ally will heal, and the opposite for enemies. I wasn't sure I wanted to give Sam his dual SMGs like from the movies. They certainly could, but like I said before, I want to go for a more comic Falcon, and I think it would be better if he didn't have the guns. I'm also not sure if he ever used his wings as feathers as projectile before, but we're just gonna go with it because I think it's cool. Red Wing will also have to be an ability he can use. That's another reason I want a comic Falcon, so that Red Wing can be an actual Falcon instead of a drone. My idea for how Red Wing could work is that he can be attached to two abilities that share the same cooldown. One will be for damage and the other will be for support. So if you use the support one, you'll have to wait for that cooldown to finish before you'd be able to use the damage one as well. For the damage ability, I'm thinking something like Juno's torpedoes from Overwatch. As you scan the battlefield, you can target enemies and then Red Wing will go and attack them. For the support one, it'd be cool if you could place Red Wing somewhere and then he creates a vortex that not only heals, but can lift his teammates in the air. I'm not entirely sure what his ultimate could be, but I'm sure if he was based on his MCU version, it'd be much easier. Maybe he uses his canonical telepathic connection to all birds to create a swarm. My idea for a team up, or even an ability or his ultimate, would be him being able to lift his allies off the ground and fly with them. That might be hit or miss depending on how they implement it, but it definitely would be fun. So those were all my concepts. I had a lot of fun coming up with them and tried to do my best with what I'm working with. Like I said, everyone makes sense to be a duelist, so I just wanted to add some variety and stay true to the characters. Let me know what you think of my ideas. If you disagree with some of my choices or have any of your own ideas that you think are good, feel free to let me know in the comments or something. This was a lot of fun, so I'll probably do this again at some point. But that's all for now. I hope you enjoy it and have a good rest of your day.
Chunky out.